Okay, now I've taken the forest data for our trees and I've projected it into WGS84 UTM Zone 10 North. And then I went ahead and extracted the coordinates. Oh, sorry. First, I went ahead and added our benchmark using the high resolution aerial photography for Arcata. This was all the same as what we did in the previous lab. And then I went ahead and added columns for northeans and eastings and did the calculate geometry to pull out the correct values. And I can see that 4.5 million is about right for a northing here, 400,000 is about right for an easting. So those look pretty good. Okay, now we want to make sure, of course, that any edits we've been doing were saved. All right, and then we can go ahead and once again export this as a table. I need some elevator music. Okay, and we do not want to put it in a geodatabase. We want to put it on the desktop. In our Lab 4 working folder. And this was called forest data. So I'm now going to call it forest data. Also has our benchmark, literally bench. And I'm going to save this as a CSV. I think that will work. Oh, and I should put it in our WGS84 UTM Zone 10 North. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. That one wants a folder and then an output name. Some of the tools like these separate, some like it together. Okay, and we run that. And once that's saved, I can go ahead and go to my folder, and there's the CSV. Make sure you're working with the right one. I went through this 4 or 5 times preparing for this. Oh, well, that's nice. Okay, anybody want to guess what I did wrong? If you get one line like this, what that typically means is that in ArcGIS, yep, I had this line selected, so Arc just output that one line. So we need to clear the selection and then go ahead and export the table again. Now again, I do forest data benchmark 2.csv. So I number them so I always know which one is the most recent. Run that. Get rid of that guy. And there's number 2, second try, which looks much better. Now, one of the things you're going to want to do right away is, wait. Yep, okay, we're good. There's our northeans and eastings. Is you're going to want to consult your notes, and you're also going to want to move very carefully from here on, because we don't want to delete anything that's really important, and we want to make sure everything we do is correct. Okay, so one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to delete some things. Now, I might use the altitude in the future, so I'm going to leave that. But there's a whole bunch of other things. Time is grayed out, so until you make it big enough, we might use that. Certainly not going to use depth or temperature. We don't have that. Then there's a bunch of blank columns. We can get rid of those. Not really concerned about the Garmin. And the rest of these fields. Northeans and eastings, of course, very important. And the X and Y, don't really need that because they're duplicates of the other latitude and longitude, so we'll get rid of those for now. All right, now the other one is, if we take a look at this, we check our notes, when Holly and I were out there, we actually took some extra points. So these waypoints are not part of our study, so we're going to get rid of those. Okay. All right, so now we're getting down to the stuff we're really interested in, which is really the northeans and eastings. We also have these other coordinates that don't have a comment in them, and we really want them to have a comment. So I'm going to go ahead and add comments from our notes that these were just a bunch of trees. And of course, I can always drag. And then this last one, number 170, is the second benchmark that we use to shoot the woody debris around the area. So I'm going to call this our second benchmark. Okay, now I've got some notes in there so I can tell what everything was. You are already good to go on calculating precision and RMS, group mean squared error, RMSE, from the corner of our benchmark. Okay, and so this is really our main benchmark from now on. This is the coordinate we're going to use. So these I can actually delete. Okay, don't really need them anymore. And I'm actually going to insert another row here because we're going to work in Excel for a little while. Okay, and I want to do some more cleanup. Here's the corner of our bench. I'm going to go ahead and move that down here because it's not something we're going to be doing calculations on. It's something we're going to use to calculate other values. And I'm going to label that this is the, that's the northing, and that's the easting. And be very careful with that because if you switch them, everything goes out of whack. I also don't really need this data, and I only need one of my times, and I don't really need my FID. And now this is getting a little bit messy, so I'm going to clean it up some. Okay, and now things are going better. In fact, I'm going to make these two lines bold. It's an Excel thing. Okay, now we need to add some additional data from our notes. So that includes our distance. And the reason I put an extra line in here is because I want to make a note that that was in meters, because we're going to want to watch our units very carefully from here on. Then we've got our direction, and we're going to start with magnetic degrees. Okay, and now I'm going to start putting in my distance and direction from my notes. Okay, 16 is annoying. It's not 16. Okay, that is not a date, so Excel, for some reason, thinks that I'm doing date stuff, so I need to go to Format Cells and make sure that it thinks, let's see. Yeah, let's do this as general and see if it figures it out. Yay, okay, now it's not converting my numbers to dates. And then 332 for my magnetic direction, and so on. Okay, I've put in all of my distances and my magnetic degree measurements. And I did that for the points as we moved into the forest, and then I also did it for the ones that we shot the woody debris around the stream. And I've gone through this a couple times. I actually think I'm going to change the way I'm doing this a little bit because I think it will make more sense. I'm going to go ahead and put my northings and eastings for my corner of the bench up here. I think this will be a little bit more consistent. And I'm going to show you how I do this in Excel, but you're welcome to do whatever works for you as far as the format, certainly. This is just for your information. Okay, so now we need to get started on computing our new coordinates. So the first thing to do is we've got to deal with these magnetic degrees. Okay, so first we want to convert those to true degrees, or true north degrees. And the way we do that, as I showed, is we're going to be able to take our declination and add it to this. We need to compute the declination because the declination that we got was 14 degrees, 16 minutes east, plus or minus 22 minutes. So to compute declination from to compute decimal degrees from degrees, minutes, and seconds, we take the degrees part and we add to it the minutes part divided by 60. Okay, so now we have our declination in decimal degrees. And we can now, I'm just going to rename that sheet to declination and go back over here. So now to compute this, we do this guy. take our magnetic degrees, add to it our declination, hit return, there we go. Now we can't just drag down, okay, because Excel will automatically change these numbers and it'll change the declination as well as the other numbers. So we just need to put a $ in front of that 4, and then it will keep that from changing. We can actually drag this all the way down and compute all those. And then I'm just going to go ahead and delete these because those are blanks. Okay, so now we have our true magnetic direction, and now we need to convert that so that we can do some trig, and we need to convert that to radians. So now we're going to take our direction and we're going to do that in radians. And notice I do this one step at a time. I do this for 2 reasons. One is that it allows me to be very careful in each step and make sure I'm doing each one correctly. The other one is it also makes it easier for me to find problems and fix them, and I don't have to deal with some big equation that has a whole bunch of stuff in it. So there's our direction in radians, and now we can compute our dx, and our dx is going to be the sine, equals sine of this distance, okay? So remember, x is going to be the opposite. It's going to be opposite in our triangle. It's going to be the opposite one, so above. We always measure from the north when we're doing GIS, and we go first to the east, so clockwise. So the x is going to be opposite of our angle, and then we want to multiply that times our distance, and our distance is in meters. So that's great. I don't have to do any conversion on it. And again, we can just drag this all the way down and compute all of them at one time. Same thing for dy, which will also be in meters. The only difference being that it is the cosine of our angle in radians times our distance in meters. And now we have our dy. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit trickier because we're about to compute our new eastings and northings. Now you have to be careful with Esri because it will only take 10 characters in a column name. And here with easting we've got 7, 8, but with northings, well, I guess if you misspell it, let's call it New North. I like that. That will fit within 10 characters. And New East. Okay, because we don't want to confuse that with our GPS coordinates that are over here. Because this is going to be a new data set, right? Okay, so now, oh, and by the way, yeah, note that these are going to be different, right? They're not going to match exactly because these were taken with the GPS and these are compass and rangefinder. So don't worry about that if you're jumping ahead. But what we want to do is we're going to go progressively. We're going to go from the corner of our bench, and then we're going to move dx dy. So what that means is we need to go, here we go, equals our new easting is equal to our old easting plus this dx. Now, again, when I drag down, I don't want, let's see, now that does work. Yeah, we want to go from this one to this one, and then this one to this one. So that should work, right? H4, yep, there we go. No, we don't want to do that, right? See, this gets confusing. So slow down, take its breath at a time. This one is going to be from our benchmark plus dx. Our next one needs to be from our previous one, this one, plus our dx. Because we want to keep moving from one coordinate to the next. We don't want to use the GPS for every one, or you won't be able to see the accumulated error that occurs. Same thing with the new north. New north is equal to our benchmark northing plus our first dy, so that's the first time we did a shoot from our bench. And then this one is going to be equal to the one above it plus our dy, turn. And again, don't worry if you have to do this a couple times. That's how it works. Now, these guys are different, right? Because these are where we stood in one place, our second benchmark, which was a tree, and then we shot each one of these. So these are different. So this is going to be equals from this one plus this dx. Okay. And this one's going to be equals this one plus our dy. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay. So now we have our new coordinates, and we want to bring them. Wait. What happened here? So that's not good. Something went very bad. Oh yes, I forgot the dollar signs, right? Because this one should be equals 012, that guy, plus dx, and then this one should not be plus 013 because that's a blank line. Okay, so that's the dollar sign thing. You need to put a dollar sign there and a dollar sign there. Oops. Okay, and now that still does not look right because I put a 4 instead of a dollar sign. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we drag down. Hopefully our Eastings look pretty good. Okay. Now, one problem is Esri is incredibly picky when it comes to putting data back into their products. This will not work. You cannot put this back into ArcGIS. So what we need to do is save this. Definitely save this because you just put a bunch of work into here. So I'm going to call that forest benchmark, but I'm going to do it as an Excel file. Okay, so now what I have saved is I have all my work in Excel saved. I got my declination. Great. But like I said, Esri won't take this. So what we need to do is do a new Excel file. And then we need to change this. Esri only allows us to have one column that has our titles in it. Okay, so we need to get rid of this column, this row, delete that. Now this will be okay, but it might be a little confusing that we've got these two different data sets. And I've already got this in another data set. The GPS coordinates are in the forest data. So I'm not really worried about those. In fact, I'm going to just move that over there because I want to keep that in this data set. And I've got that comment. So that's okay. But we also need to get rid of these two rows. Okay, because that'll mess things up. And now we've got what we want to have, which is we've got our Eastings and our Northings in a nice column. And this should work. Now notice I put should in front of that because, as I mentioned, Esri is extremely picky when it comes to what it will accept coming into one of their products. So I'm going to save this out. And I am going to save this as a CSV file. And let's go ahead and call this forest data bench and shot point. So this includes everything. And that is okay, because this is really just a temporary CSV file. Now we can go into Arc, and I can go ahead and go to Map, add data, add XY data, find our points. Oh, now notice they're not showing up. Refresh. There they are. Okay, now we got to pick exactly the right field. So there's our new Easting for X, our new Northing for Y. Coordinate system is not WGS84. It is WGS84 UTM Zone 10 North. Now we run that. Very excited. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, and we have coordinates that are at least in the same area. Okay, now I gotta tell you, I did this several times, so don't worry if you have to do this a few times. Okay, walk through it carefully. If you make mistakes, that's okay. But notice, yep, our shot points are gonna be over here, and here's our path, and they're gonna be different. The GPS and the compass and rangefinder are gonna produce a little bit different results, but if you get this close, you're good to go. If it's off in La La Land, I spent some time in the Mediterranean. Check your projections, check your coordinates, make sure Eastings and Northings look good. You'll get there.